Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today is the second half of a great interview session, I guess you'd call it. But we are going to be catching up again with one Brandon Stone, and we're going to be talking about a ton of things. We're going to go ahead and get kicked right off. Brandon said he'd really enjoy to talk about The Walking Dead, so we're going to go ahead and do so. Brandon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here as well. All right, so for most of you that know me, I'm kind of obsessed about The Walking Dead. I learned that Brandon also has an affinity for The Walking Dead, so I'll kind of let him tell his finding of said show slash comic book. I don't even know if he watches the show. We'll find out.
I I actually do watch the show, and I actually watched the premiere of the very first episode when it came out. And primarily, I knew it was going to air, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I tuned in, kind of like 20 minutes into it, and then I recognized I'm trying to remember the character's name now. The guy that finds Rick right after he gets out of the hospital. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Glenn?
No, 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 not Glenn. The guy with the son.
Oh, Morgan.
Morgan, that's it.
Yeah, Morgan.
Okay, the guy that plays Morgan was in another show that I used to watch called Jericho. And so I'm like, oh, hey, I didn't know this guy was in this show. And I'm like, I'm going to watch this because I like this guy. And he was only in like the first episode. But but
Well,
then, they re-aired the beginning because they aired the episode again. And so I watched it. And then I missed week 2. Then I watched week 3. Then I missed week 4. And then I'm like, oh, and I was there for week 5. I'm like, you know what? I've missed so much. I'm just going to wait because there's only 6 episodes. So then I marathoned it when it came out on Blu-ray, and then I didn't have AMC at the time that season 2 aired. So then when that came out, we marathoned it, and then I did have AMC for season 3, watched it all the way through, and it was after season 3 that I played the Walking Dead video game by Telltale, and that got me interested enough to read the comics because the characterizations of the characters who are in the game are not from the show, they're from the comics. And that intrigued me enough to want to check out the comics. And so that began a slippery slope of reading through the entire series in about a day or maybe a day and a half. I stayed up all night reading it, and then until I got caught up. And then from there, I've been, when I remember, I try to look it up when when the new issue comes out.
yeah, I talking about all things of Walking Dead and how you read through it so quick. I also read through it. I think it took me like 3 days because I was doing it in between working. I just picked like the worst time to start it. Like it
Mm.
was like on days that I had to work like 4 10-hour days in a row, and I was just like, oh well, I'll get to this when I get to it. But it was so addicting that it was like cutting into my sleep, and I was getting grumpy and all that stuff at work. But that's beside the point. But I will say, it must have been fun for you to read issue 100 with that great character kill that happens.
Oh yeah.
I the new job I got. By the way, everybody, I got a new job. I left that stupid ass place called the Horseshoe. I can tell you guys all the funny secrets about how terrible it is, but that's for another podcast. Um, but this new place I'm working at, this awesome chick, Jess, who is my friend Stacy's stepmom, she mentioned to me that she watches The Walking Dead, and I was just like, "Oh, you watch it? Have you read the comics?" And she said, "No, I think the show's awesome, but I watch half of it, through my hand holes, like covering my
Mm.
eyes." And I was like, "Well, they haven't even done like the worst yet." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Oh, well, cause what Negan does." And then I went on to explain to her in grim detail, and her facial expression was amazing. I wish I could have caught it on film. It was great. She was just like appalled, but intrigued at the same time. So I thought that was really fun. But no, I like where The Walking Dead is going. I You haven't, Brandon hasn't read the latest issue, which I can't talk anything about, which is fine. I know I like to spoil, but we're not spoiling today. We're just booking right through.
I really enjoyed the All Out War series, and I loved how they released more than one issue a month just to keep it moving and keep it going at a good pace. And I thought that was really cool of them to keep that just that inspiration to keep that going and keep that motivation for making their fans happy, and that's what I like about this series is that they have their way and they do their thing, and they're not afraid of like making their fans mad, because that's the whole point of the damn show, and also the comic is like you don't get too attached to anybody.
Because as soon
And
as you do, they're done for.
but I do enjoy how much they take enjoyment of making their fans happy, and I really feel like that the All Out War series and their release window for those issues was really just like a love letter. Said, hey, look, you love this series, you're gonna love this concept and this story, and we want to give it to you faster. And I really love their dedication to that.
It's really weird to me. You say that it was faster, but even still, in my head, I'm just like, God, I want a weekly issue.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so engrossed with the whole story. I do have a question for you that I just came up with while we were sitting here talking. Who's a bigger troll to their fans, Robert Kirkman or Kojima?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
tough. It's tough, but I mean, I don't know if you read the letter hacks, but
yes, I do.
he is a dick.
He is, and honestly, I'm probably gonna have to go with Kojima, because Kirkman isn't. He does it out of entertainment purposes, and Kojima does so as well. But Kojima will go out of his way to lie to you about a project, only to reveal that, like the whole thing he did with the Phantom Pain. Not to go too much into it, but it was supposed to be this new game and not a Metal Gear Solid, and it ends up being a Metal Gear Solid, and just so he can go gotcha. And they put so much effort into that to make it not look like a Metal Gear game and make you wonder what it was. And I think he gets some weird satisfaction out of that. Kirkman, on the other hand, people write in and he'll just be a complete dick to him, because it's like, look, it's my series. I can do what I want. If you don't like it, stop reading. Uh,
Absolutely.
so in that vein, I don't think he's ever like he teases. He doesn't give stuff away, but I don't think he's on that level of Kojima yet, and I hope he doesn't become that level.
I will say not Kirkman, but Sean, the other guy that does the article,
Yeah.
the letter hacks with Kirkman. In this week's issue, in the letter hacks, so this is totally non-spoiling because you were going to read these anyways. Somebody writes in with lyrics from And Justice for All. And Sean's like, you know what? I'm just going to answer every question with lyrics from Metallica. And so he did with a couple, and I thought it was really clever how he pulled it off. I was like, oh, I see what you did there.
So
Good, good.
then, so then, in a sense, the people writing in, taking their time to write in, don't even get the answer they want.
Well, yes and no.
All right.
You'll see when you get there. You'll probably actually text me and be like, wow, what the hell?
All right. One thing about Walking Dead I want to talk about really quick is I really love how they're really keeping the comics and the TV show similar but completely separate.
Oh yeah,
And I like it because it's refreshing, because I got an idea of what happens because the comic is further along than the show is, but you don't know if that's how it's going to happen.
no, and I
And
mean, when we knew season 3 was going to be primarily the governor, I thought they were going to wrap that in a nice little bow and be one season of him, and we
mhm.
actually got him in season 4 as well, and they then closed the story, which I thought was really creative. You know, you end your third season, how they end it with Andrea, and then where's the group? What's going on? And then it's literally right back in the grind, but somebody is still to be dealt with, and they, retelling of his backstory and how he manipulated people to follow him, and you know he really showed the darker side of the governor in season 4, I thought, as
Mhm.
opposed to season 3.
Oh, I agree. And one thing I loved about the show is I actually like their characterization of the governor more than I do in the comic.
He looked
Uh,
so scrungy in the comic. He
and
looked
it's just
better in the show.
it's not even about his look. Yeah, I agree with the look, but it's also like that actor's portrayal, the actor's portrayal, which I don't remember his name off the top of my head,
David
unfortunately.
Morrissey.
David Morrissey, that's it. I loved his portrayal. It's like it's almost he's so captivating when he's on the screen, even when he's at his most pathetic point at one of those episodes from the last season, and he's just kind of wandering aimlessly. Those, it's funny because someone I know told me, goes, I wish they wouldn't have taken that time away because I want to know what was going on in the prison. I'm like, I loved it because he's such a good actor, and he makes that character so interesting to watch that for those 2 episodes or whatever they did with him, I was okay with it because I wanted to know more about him, because for so long you're left with wondering, and then they just tell you all at once then to wrap up both ends of the story right there in the mid-season finale, which I I felt the show was doing really good and moving slow paced until it hit that point, and then when we found out what slow pace really means, and then the latter half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say, I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned this on the show or not, but I absolutely adored the fact that Kirkman made sure, as a part of the directing process, that the cover for issue 53 of The Walking Dead was the introduction to Abraham and his group. It
Yes,
was identical. And I was just like, yes, I am absolutely still very good with this. But gosh, like you said, that second half of the season just crawled.
it did,
The
and but
group is so split up. Nobody knows anybody.
I get why they did it though, because they didn't want to rush right into the next storytelling part. Because doing so after such a big climax would just be a little bit overload. You have to leave a little bit wonder, especially when you leave everybody kind of spread out. They all have to come back together eventually. And it got to a point where I'm like, all right, they're going to end this season right when everybody kind of gets back together. And I
You're
was
right.
and I was pretty right on that. And doing that made you like, oh, all right, oh wait, gotta wait till next season.
So,
And
did you hear? I don't know if you watched Talking Dead as well.
I do, yes.
Did you see what, or did you hear what Andrew Lincoln said about the final scene?
Mm-hmm.
How he said that they made him say they messed with the wrong people, but they definitely did a take where he said, they fucked with the wrong people.
Oh,
And I just,
yeah.
I wonder how they're if Negan makes to TV, how do they do that? Do
You
they
can't.
censor him heavily and then just let people witness his true potential by buying it on Blu-ray where there's unedited? Do they pay to allow him to say that? I mean, they've got to have so much money from that show.
I I read an interview with Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad,
Awesome.
and I love that show. That's a different that could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we could
But
talk for 2 days on Breaking Bad.
uh, but he said that AMC allowed him to use the word fuck once per season. And he made sure when they were in the writing process that it was always going to be used effectively, not just a throwaway line. And so that makes me wonder how they're going to go about the Negan character, because he's so I feel like he's the way he's written like in the comics is like over the top, but that's his character design.
Absolutely. It's
And
the highest level of crazy as far as we know.
yeah, and so I just hit my mic.
It's okay. Happens.
Um, so that how can you do that on television without watering it down? And I don't think you can effectively. So we're going to probably end up getting kind of a reimagining of Negan, which is it's kind of sad, but we also got sort of a reimagining with the governor as well, and that turned out well.
I have a theory.
Go
It
ahead.
just hit me. What do you think about this? Where could they allow Negan to be Negan on this big screen? What if they do a
Mm-hmm.
movie where Negan is the movie and then it goes and it just ties the show continuously?
We'll see. If you're going to do a movie with Walking Dead, it's automatically going to be an R-rated movie anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So might as well throw everything at it. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing I see there is it might end up having to be two movies released like 6 months from each other because
Mm-hmm.
that story, as of right now, is so large.
Exactly. And my problem with that is what I call double sequel syndrome. And so many films, Pirates, Matrix, um,
Lord of the
and
Rings.
Lord of the Rings. When you do a movie that is so connected, or like if you take Lord of the Rings out of it, if you just take those two examples, the Matrix and the Pirates films, you have one standalone film, which is the first one, which is its own story. It is produced. That is the movie, and then you move on saying, well, we want to milk this, so we know we're gonna have two movies. So to make it cheaper, they make one movie into two parts, and one of those parts always suffers.
It's true.
And whether it's on the writing front, production, one of those parts is nowhere near as interesting as the other one. Like I kind of feel like like on the Pirates end, I just rewatched those not too long ago, and the second Pirates movie takes about 60 to 80 minutes to even let you know what is really going on.
That's let's see, the second one was that Dead Man's Chest?
Yeah, Dead Man's Chest. And it took that long to even get the plot. Like you knew little bits. Okay, he's doing this for a reason. he wants this, this guy over here wants this, but it takes that long for that even to interconnect, and the rest is all filled in with action sequences. And for the Matrix, well, that's a completely different story. But the only film to ever successfully do a double sequel syndrome, in my opinion, is Back to the Future.
Fully
And
100% agree.
even then, the second part struggles a little bit because they had to finish up production on that movie as they moved into the third one. But the reason why I feel like it works so well is because there are sequels to each other. They're sort of the same story, but they each have their own story, and they're each in different, completely different settings.
Well, and another thing that I, it's so weird because in our current era, we are so spoiled. But you think back, man, people went and saw the second Back to the Future thinking, oh, this is just the final time we'll watch a Back to the Future movie. And then at the end credits, they gave you, a teaser for the third movie. And I thought that was genius marketing, but you can't do that now. If
No.
you're shooting one and you're going to shoot the second, people are going to know. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just so unfortunate, but it's like a double-edged sword because I like knowing little details, but at the same time, I almost wish we were back in the dark ages where the internet didn't rule everything.
Back on point about Walking Dead film, if that were to happen with Negan, my worry is that it would jar too much with the production of the television show, especially if you do something so large as like a two-part film where the amount of production time that needs to be for such a large project would have to be done in the middle of their season. And then it's weird because they have such a weird shooting schedule. Like they're probably already just or now getting done with shooting the first part of season 5, is it?
Yep.
And they won't start filming again until like September. Then they'll film through September and October as season 5 starts. Then they'll wrap it in like the end of October or November. Then they're off until May. So that winter time would be the only time. But then these actors don't have any downtime to do what other projects or anything they want. It's going to be really demanding, and the movie would be a way to do the Negan storyline accurately. But what we're more likely going to get is some sort of reimagining of him, good or bad. That's probably what we're going to get, and that's kind of all I can say about that because I can't see them doing it any other way.
Okay, now real quick before we move on from The Walking Dead, do you see them maybe if they bring him to television, would you see them possibly making him more violent and taking away from the language? Which,
They
in
could do
my
that.
opinion, the language is really what sets that character up beautifully, because you
See,
just never know what's gonna
yeah,
fly out of his mouth.
I agree. I agree. The violence is one thing and the language is another because when he's talking and it's like you get like 7 F words in like one single sentence and you got adjective upon adjective to set up the other adjective. You get that, but I could definitely see them maybe substituting some of the language for the violence. But in order to do that, they got to do it in such a way that the violence is on a level we have not yet seen.
Well, I'm pretty sure if they do the scene with him and Glenn and they film it right, that's on a level that people in general haven't seen.
I agree.
So we'll see where that goes. But we'll truck right along. We're going to kind of backtrack a couple months here and talk a little bit about WrestleMania 30, what's going on with, the wild, wacky world of wrestling. What did you think about the card for 30?
I was mostly happy with it. I felt like it was the most even card in like the last few years. Like when I was sitting and watching it, I actually watched it all by myself. Didn't have anybody else here with me. I felt like for the most part that the card was very good on all fronts, barring a couple of different things, but that's to be expected. But the starting off with not the promo, not the Silverdome promo with Hogan, but the but the Bryan and Triple H match. That to me was almost the match of the night, and it might actually be because I felt like it set the tone, it got the ball rolling,
It
and it
delivered.
on all fronts, on
Absolutely.
all fronts. Even Stephanie was great in her role on the outside
Yep.
because it made you actually fear that Bryan might lose this because of some outside interference, and then Triple H lost clean in the middle of the ring, and I absolutely loved it. And it set it up for the rest of the show. And moving on, the next high point for me, uh, did they do the Battle Royal next, or was
Um,
there?
well, funny story. You mentioned you watched WrestleMania alone. I did as well, kinda, but I actually didn't see it live. I had to work that night. In a bogus turn of events, I had like every Sunday off all year, and all of a sudden they scheduled me one random Sunday, WrestleMania Sunday. So I actually got home at 3:22 in the morning. Um, I got in bed. I started, I turned it on, started watching. I do believe the second thing was the Battle Royal. Um, I'm not trying to jump too far, but I wanted to get this out there that actually I started watching the Taker Lesnar match, and I was so exhausted from work I fell asleep and woke up at the end.
Oh,
The worst. I won't even watch that match. Knowing how it actually ends, I
well,
can't watch it.
now see the thing is that when you see, and we're jumping over a match because we're jumping over the John Cena Bray Wyatt match too.
Oh, we're gonna
I
get to John Cena and Bray Wyatt.
But it just off that real quick, I kind of felt like the fans were a little bit tired after the first match, the Battle Royal, and then the Cena Bray Wyatt. I felt like the fans were a little bit tired, and so they were expecting an Undertaker match of old. But unfortunately, what this match kind of proved to me watching, I don't think he can go at that level that much.
Nope.
He was trucking along. He was doing his best. He was doing his best, and Lesnar did a damn good job for what he can do. The match was a bit slow in pace, but I feel like it was done that by design
Well, yeah,
in
to
order,
keep him fresh.
right, to keep it down. They had a few marks up, and I also heard that Taker got injured some point during the match where he actually got a concussion, a really bad concussion.
And yeah, still got through the match, which is pretty impressive.
And I was sitting here watching it, and I noticed the fans were not into it, and I'm like watching it, and I'm getting sucked into it, and I took notice because I pay attention to these weird little details. The announcers kept talking like this was the last go, that he just doesn't have it in him, and I'm like, either they're going to make him pull one out of his ass, or this is going to be it. And no sooner did I think that was it over, and I was just like everyone else.
Stunned.
Oh my God. And it was, you could hear a pin drop. But I just want to take this 1 second and, immediately after, because it took like a few seconds for it to digest, even though I just thought it. Now it's reality. We have just witnessed, as a wrestling fan, you don't see this too often anymore. We witness history.
Literal history. Yeah.
And I started tearing up, going, this is it. That's it. He's done. He's done. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's done. And then, they did all the fan shots and everything. And then it took Taker like 9 years to get up and get out. And I'm not digging at him. I know he was hurt and a long match. I'm just saying it did take a while, and it just that cemented it even more. That it's almost like that was too much for the crowd. But I want to segue that into what used to make WWE must-watch TV was the fact that anything could happen.
Yep. Back
And
in the Attitude Era, man. And I think we grew up in a very lucky time. I'm glad it wasn't the early 80s when we were growing up where there wasn't enough wrestling, and I'm glad we aren't kids now who they don't even know, Like the
mm-mm,
Attitude Era was something that's so special. You yearn for those days, where anything could happen. Now it's just like, well, I'm pretty sure I could write the script for this show and I'll be 90% correct.
my reaction to it is that this was we have gone so long without that feeling that this was too much, too soon. But in the same vein, it also sends the road forward of nothing is sacred.
Yeah, that's true. Um,
And
I'll wrap this back up to who uh, who is a part of this wrestling thing. I thought if you're gonna end the streak, and I said this last year, and I stand by it this year. Personally, I don't think it should have been Lesnar, and I stand by that it should have been CM Punk. And I know that everybody calls him a quitter and stuff. In my head, I still think he's playing an angle right now. He's just been too quiet for somebody who talks so damn much.
for me, uh, now this is going to start a little debate because I kind of disagree with you
Ooh,
because I don't think there is any one right person. I don't think there is. And here's the reason why. People love CM Punk. Even when he's being a heel, they love him because they enjoy watching him. The person who is going to end that streak and destroy all of our childhoods is going to be booed forever and a day. Now, Punk may relish in that. He's a natural heel, and that's fine. The fact that it was Lesnar, to me, is going to benefit the more that Lesnar's on television, because if they do it right, which who knows if they will, but they can rub that off on somebody and make it work for the guy that beat the Undertaker, the most unstoppable guy in the WWE, who has not been in there since he beat it, because that's how he rolls, is gonna hopefully get beat by somebody like a Daniel Bryan, who could say, "I beat the guy who beat the Undertaker. He cannot take anything else away from us." And so, for me, I'm okay with it to an extent.
All right.
Because
you mentioned Daniel Bryan, so I got another question. Whose pop was bigger? Do you think Daniel Bryan finally winning the WWE World Heavyweight title, as they have to call it to make it the longest damn name ever, was his pop bigger when he won at WrestleMania 30, or do you think Ziggler winning and cashing in on Raw the night after 29 was bigger?
that's interesting, because I'd have to say they were on different levels. For the Raw, you've got 20,000 people, and at WrestleMania you had nearly 80. And the way they structured the show, that Undertaker loss brought everybody down, like
Really far down.
oh man. And by the end, to the point where even at the beginning of the main event they weren't back yet. But by the end of that night, they got almost everybody in that crowd chanting yes, and it was a magical moment that we don't get too often.
That you
And
couldn't have said it better myself. That was very well put.
um, the I'm not taking anything away from Ziggler. That pop was his and his alone that night, because that proved to whoever's in charge, whoever's writing, it's you can put these characters anywhere you want. The fans are going to choose who they want to cheer for,
Yep.
whether or not you put them there or not. And that is an example. And then them like trying to not want to push Daniel when the fans wanted it for so long, and then to a point where they got there where, okay, we got to push him because they're hijacking our shows and chanting his name during the main events where he's not even in. And they need to listen to their fan base, because if they did, Ziggler would have been in that match, maybe with Bryan or in another big match, instead of just being. Was he even in the Battle Royal?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
didn't go very far. I love Dolph
Right.
Ziggler.
I do too.
I sing his praises very high. I do believe that one thing that the Battle Royal, wrapping back up, proved is that Cesaro is going to be a star for a while.
Yes.
I hope
Yes.
and I pray he doesn't get the John Cena effect where he becomes the same one character so much that people stop liking him.
I agree. I really like his turnaround, because there for a while they were pushing him and they pushed him back down, and then he's a hard worker. I mean, he's been a hard worker since his early days, and you can tell that. And the matches that got me into liking him were watching his NXT matches with Sami Zayn, and watching
Phenomenal matches, mind you.
how hard they work together. Is like, dude, he's got something. He's on a bigger level in the WWE. He doesn't work exactly like that, because they work a different style on television, but he's got it. And then no sooner after I like, okay, this is a guy to watch, did he start coming up, and people started like, honestly, I think it was the strength of those NXT stuff that got the core crowd, and then they started cheering for him, and then it's almost like they had the tagline when he was in the tag team with Swagger, "We the people." You get them chanting something, they're gonna get behind you.
Can I just say that and you know this for me, I've never been a Swagger fan, but oh my God, the Real Americans and the We the People, every time, even if I was alone at 2 a.m, I would put my hand over my heart and say in a loud, clear voice, "We the people."
It got over, and in a sense, it got Cesaro over even more with the general crowd because now they've got something to chant along with him as they're watching him work hard, whether as a heel or babyface, whatever. He's doing his job well, and that translates into the WrestleMania Battle Royal where he gets the nod of eliminating the Big Show in the fashion that he did by slamming him over the top. That pops the crowd. So now
Show jumped, but it's still impressive as hell.
it's the feat. It is the visual of the it. He's supposed to be the strong guy, you know, and who can pick up the Big Show at a deadlift
No
without
one.
help?
Zero people.
If he's dead weight, I'm sorry, you're not going to pick him up. But it's a callback to that Hogan Andre moment.
Yep, which was definitely special. I'm gonna ask you a question. We talked about this while we were prepping for the show. NXT is NXT better than TNA?
I agree wholeheartedly now. A year ago, I probably still would have said yes. The thing is, I don't think TNA has been the same since the Hogan Bischoff regime ran through it. And when they came in, I was like, okay, this could be really good or really bad. And it, unfortunately for me, in my opinion, was really bad. They brought in a lot of guys to help out, but unfortunately, it didn't work. They took away what made TNA TNA. And
Six-sided ring.
to me, that was the first step. They took that away, and then they were pushing guys like RVD, who's a great guy. I love RVD, and he does deserve to be pushed. But when you had the face of TNA, AJ Styles, champion for so long, and then he gets beat, and then RVD has the title. Yay, okay, RVD's the champ. As long as they do something good with the story, I'll buy it. But then he works over his dates, so then they just take the title off of him in a storyline injury to put it on this guy. Their booking was all over the place. I didn't like their presentation. TNA, when I first discovered it in 2004, was different than WWE, which I was frustrated with at the time, and it made something different and interesting for me to watch. More and more through the years, I've seen spurts of TNA that were really good, and then it goes down, and it all boils down to they're copying too much of one other company instead of being themselves.
Okay, so I remember actually you coming over for rehearsal or practice or hang out after school maybe. The exact time I don't remember, but you had the first Slammiversary on a
Mm-hmm.
disc.
Yeah.
You had
I,
burned it to a disc.
Yeah, like I bought it on eBay, and it was a pirated copy. But I'm not too proud of that because I actually didn't know any better. I thought it was when I got it, I was like, oh shit. Well, yeah. Okay. I guess it makes sense that it wouldn't be out yet, but because they're not like WWE and put out their pay-per-views like a month after they air.
No.
But anyway, that pay-per-view gave us the first TNA match of Samoa Joe, and it also it put Raven over, which I've always been a Raven fan. I don't think he's a super top guy, but it gave him some accolades, and they didn't end his reign there very well. As I said, TNA has always been kind of up and down, but you had great X Division style matches. They had a great tag team division at one point.
Yep, Motor City Machine Guns.
Motor City Machine Guns. You go back even further, and you get Triple X with Primetime Eagle Skipper and
Yep.
Chris Daniels, and then you get AMW back then were really good. I think AMW sort of got overshadowed
Beer Money.
by Beer Money, which I think was a better team. But at the time, AMW was tearing it up, and you also had a couple other guys. I can't remember their names at this point, but they had a great thing going for them. You had Jeff Jarrett being sort of like the franchise guy, trying to be the older heel, trying to get younger guys over, and they had a great setup. And unfortunately, they have lost their way tremendously. I cry for these so incredible talents that are down there that have so much to offer, and they're in a promotion that is just going downhill very fast and are still trying to recuperate from the Hogan Bischoff era. And AJ left. Sting is gone. He's no longer down there. And you got MVP just went down there, and I like MVP. I've always enjoyed his work.
Angle's talking about leaving. I mean, Angle himself
Mm-hmm.
said, "See you in September." WWE fans. So,
Right.
I mean, that's pretty ballsy to just come out and be like, "Yeah, by September, I'll be signed to a different company that's not these losers."
To me, and it's sad to call them losers because I cheered for them so long because I wanted a different company to step up. maybe not be exactly the same level because it's hard to be
They're a
on the
machine.
WWE.
Yeah, they're a machine, man.
And it's almost proven now that it doesn't matter who's on top, who's the champion. People are going to tune in or buy tickets just because of the name brand, not really who's on the card. On a general level, I'm not talking about the diehards, but for TNA to say that the NXT brand of WWE, which is their upstart, when you come in the company, first you go to the performance center, you learn your craft, then we put you on pseudo television. It's not live television. Sometimes they have the live specials to get you ready, and that television's better than what TNA is offering me. To me, that is saying something. TNA needs to look at that and say, what are they offering? And the reality is they're offering wrestling
The
with
end.
NXT, and they're offering very little. You get storyline development, but it's done in a minimal sense. This guy has a problem with this guy. Here's why they fight.
The end.
The end. Yeah, it is so easy to sit there and write something. It can write itself. And I think WWE overthinks it when they try to put big soap operas on television. They overthink it. TNA is copying WWE, so they're overthinking it. You got NXT, which is becoming the must-watch television programming on WWE Network. If you don't have it, get it for NXT. It is a bargain.
Really, that's dead on. I have one question to pose to you involving TNA. Do you think, and this is a long, long shot, but do you think that there's a chance that Vince had a meeting with Hogan and said, look, I'm only letting you go because I know that you can go there and take them down from the inside?
I don't think that happened because Vince doesn't see them as a threat.
Well,
Uh,
Vince technically doesn't ever see anybody as a threat, but the threat could still potentially be there. That's the only reason I
Potentially,
ask, you know.
yeah. The way I see it is that they are much too small to even put a chink in the WWE armor. If they were like, because if you remember back when Hogan first got there, they were trying to put him on live on Monday night to go head to head.
They would have gotten eaten alive.
And they did. I mean, they went head to head. Hogan going into TNA, bringing in Jeff Hardy, who was the biggest name in the WWE for what 2009, 2008, 2009. He was a big star there. He came into TNA with Hogan, with RVD, and then Mr. Anderson, and they went head to head with Bret Hart's return to WWE, which the segments of that show were good, but most of the show wasn't that great, and it still beat out TNA by a vast margin because people aren't associated with the TNA brand. And they should have stuck on their night, which they went back to. That is TNA programming. They're not reaching out to new people. They're not reaching out to new fans, and that's hurting them in the long run because then their core fans are now tempted to abandon the product because they're not putting out product that their core fans want to see.
That was very well worded. Let's go ahead, and although we could literally probably sit and talk for like 4 episodes worth of wrestling, um, as much as they're like we didn't even get taught to touch like talking about the Shield or the Wyatt family, but let's jump on to some fan questions here. We'll kind of shuck through these. I know you said you had a game that you'd like to play, and I would also like to play, but we'll bust through these fan questions as quickly as we can and get to this awesome game to end our second episode. So, first question I have: most overrated superhero. What's your opinion?
Um, Superman, and with one exception, I've got another asterisk in there, but I'll let you go next.
You know, actually, I'm gonna say Captain America. And I mean, Captain America's cool. His origin was legit. He was punching Nazis in their damn face. I know I've said it, but there, I've tried to read Captain America comics, like more modern, and he is just a boring, thoughtless character. He's just. I think Hulk has more of a personality, and Hulk doesn't speak in full sentences. Hulk smash anger stuff. That's intriguing to me. You
See,
know.
I can agree with you on that. I can agree with you on that. And the reason why I had an asterisk is I had there's a guy I work with, and sometimes he likes arguing for the sake of arguing. In other words, just something to pass the time. And then my favorite superhero is not even a superhero. It's Batman. That's it. And he started an argument one day and said Iron Man could beat the crap out of Batman. And I said, bullshit. He goes, how do you say that? He's got better shit. I'm like, Batman throws EMP batarang. It's over.
The end.
And he goes, well, Iron Man's got this and that. And I'm like, he goes, Superman could beat Batman. I said, no, he couldn't.
No,
you don't,
because
you don't know. You don't know. And then, so he's spouting out all this stuff. He goes, give me one good reason why Batman could beat Iron Man. And I said, because he's a fucking ninja.
that is fact.
And I'm like, the only thing that can beat Batman is a aforementioned better ninja.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion. And so, I mean, and also, and this is just something I thought of, maybe the only hero or anti-hero who could even stand up to Batman would be Deadpool, because he's so out there enough that maybe he could actually put Batman down. But even that, I'm not sure. I know I'm biased, but I don't see an Iron Man beating Batman. And that's sort of like that argument, for the sake of arguing, kind of made me anti-Iron Man there for a while, and to the point where I kind of think he's overrated as well.
Well, with Batman, I mean, I'm not trying to say this blasphemously, and I've said, I don't know if I ever officially said that. Like I said, there have been a couple episodes of Journey into Comics that don't technically exist because I recorded stuff and then I just scrapped it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that the rogue gallery of villains makes your superhero. Batman has a large, great gallery of villains. You could name 80% of his villains without even thinking about it, just because of the lore and because they're so well known and loved. Same with Spidey.
Mm-hmm.
Name 3 villains of Iron Man. I can name 2.
You're doing better than me.
See what I'm saying?
Because I agree with you 100%. It's not the hero that makes the hero; it's its villains. If he doesn't have anybody cool to go up against, why should you read? In all intents and purposes, Batman's a pretty boring character by himself. But it's those interesting psychotic characters that he goes up against that makes him interacting with them interesting to follow. And the same thing with Spider-Man. He's got such animated villains. Maybe that they're not all psychotic, but they're so animated that you want to see them fight.
Perfect. So now, our next question's from Tony. Mr. Tony Schoen, thank you for sending this question in. I owe you a big one. What did you think about the time jump in The Walking Dead? And, to kind of put this together, what do you think about the characters' looks changing? Because they have actually changed quite majorly.
One would expect it. Like the only downside that because I've only read the one, as we said, I'm like an issue behind. But Carl's look kind of struck me as like, is this the 1980s again? And then I couldn't tell if he was wearing a dress and a necklace. And I'll be honest with you, because I read this right before we recorded the first podcast, and I was reading it, and he had to talk to his dad, and I'm like, wait, he's wearing a dress?
Oh, God.
What is this talk going to be about? I didn't know. I know that's probably not where it was going, but in my head, I'm like, kind of making fun of it, going, did you just talk about this other boy? It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on, Carl? And then I actually like Rick's character look a little bit. It kind of gives him more of the sage look.
Yeah.
He's walking with the cane, and he's got the beard and the shorter hair. I'm down with that.
Kind of looks like Herschel. Yes,
exactly. I kind of thought that same thing. Maybe a little bit more of a rugged, tough Herschel.
Yeah.
But as far as the time jump goes, I'm okay with it as far as I see where they go. Because we were really living, we had different time jumps earlier in The Walking Dead of how long are they at the prison? How much time? I mean, some other shows or anime go through this where like one episode of anime is 5 minutes, but the next episode is like 2 days. How much are we knowing? And for this time jump, I'm okay with it because earlier it felt like reading almost like a soap opera. Each episode is a new day or whatever. And it's like how much can happen. It's almost like, and the reconstruction, in my opinion, can be relatively boring if there's no major conflict. because to harken back, me and you went to high school together. Our U.S. history class in high school started right after the Civil War, not during the Civil War or before it.
Yep.
And that was so boring to read about how we built our country back together. Not that that's not an important time in history, but because nothing really happened. I mean, the Old West happened, but that was towards the end, and that's individual stories, not like a nation story. And so I kind of feel like, okay, they did the all-out war. Now we're rebuilding. We're setting up this, and they can pretty much imply that in a past tense and still make it work. So I'm okay with it.
Cool. I yeah, I don't see the time jump at first when I read, oh, 2 years have passed. I was like, what the hell? Why would you do that to us? As your loyal reader, you have left 2 years of the group out. And I'm trying my hardest not to spoil anything. But, anyways, um, I feel like, and I think I said this in one of the previous podcasts, I feel like if they do it right and they can utilize flashbacks in that 2 year time frame,
Mm-hmm.
it could really make the story even more intriguing.
And to add to that, as long as those flashbacks have substance.
Yeah, if there's I mean, you're not gonna leave. I mean, 2 years is a big thing, and with Rick's group, they've overcome adversity before. Real quick, I'm gonna add to this. What did you think? And trying to keep this one a little bit short here. The final page of 127 with who Carl is talking to.
I liked it because that's gonna build up.
Oh yeah, it
You know,
already. Just wait till you read the next issue.
yeah, it's gonna build up, and I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to add on is that those 2 years that these characters get closer because I think you mentioned in a previous podcast about how Carl's calling Andrea mom.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's almost like when you get a new mother or you get a new person in that centerfold. It's not like I don't think he ended up calling her that overnight. It's
That
got to be something that's close knit and tied to where now she is that to him, and he is comfortable enough saying that. So it's interesting. For as far as flashbacks go, I want to see that's one story that I would like to see kind of played out is how their relationship kind of became different over that time period.
yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, Rick, my buddy Rick, I got this is a really good question, and it's probably more geared towards me. If you have anything to add, definitely feel free. But he asks why there is so much hate towards Tom Hardy's rendition of Bane in the Chris Nolan Dark Knight Rises. And as far as I can say, it's not necessarily that it's so different from the comic. One, the look is bad. Yeah, you picked a muscly guy. That's great. I think the mask is stupid. It doesn't make sense. You took away the venom being the most important part of him becoming stronger. You as a whole, to finish a trilogy, you picked Bane as your final dude. The Riddler. The Return of Scarecrow could have been better. Uh, there are just so many little things, and I just think that overall, the voice of Bane is what ruined that movie for me. The end.
Okay, I'll add here. I agree with you on almost everything you said. I kind of feel like they were trying to tie this movie back into the first film again with the League of Shadows and Raish Al Ghul. I will not say Ra's al Ghul. Sorry, his name is Raish to me, and that is the animated series. Whatever.
Old
He
school.
is he is Raish. Damn it. But I see what they were trying to do because weren't there rumors before Ledger died that they were going to tie the Joker into the third film?
Well, yeah, that's why the line in The Dark Knight was, you know, you and I are destined to do this forever because you can't kill me because of some sense of good, and I can't kill you because you're just too much fun. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that in itself was supposed to be a building block for the next movie. And it really, if Heath Ledger doesn't die, I think The Dark Knight Rises is definitely a different film tonally, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a way cooler film.
I
Um,
agree. I agree with that aspect. But going back, I think with him passing away and them not wanting to tarnish what they'd already done, messed with that. storyline a bit, and so they tried to make it towards the first film, which I liked because I loved the first film, and it's a different film from the second one, and I like the premise of it. I didn't think their execution of Bane went off well. As you said, they pretty much stripped away what made that character interesting, and just gave you the outer shell of it. And from that aspect, I didn't like. First off, I didn't like his characterization, and number two, I didn't like the way they ended it off just like that suddenly. And number three, I did like how they brought Talia into play. I liked that storyline. I didn't like the Bane part of it. Did it ruin the film for me? Not exactly. I saw it in IMAX, uh, and I enjoyed the film because I kind of feel like maybe I'm just defending it for defending its sake, but I feel like any ending to a movie or a game can sometimes be the worst part because you have to wrap everything up and make everybody happy, and there's no way you can do that. I was, let's just say, I was satisfied with it enough. Not that it was as good as the second or even the first. I kind of felt like it was definitely a step back, but I don't think it was a terrible film.
Okay.
So we'll leave it at that.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I do know in the rumor mill back when the movie hadn't yet even officially cast anybody but Christian Bale, I know there was talks that Philip Seymour Hoffman had signed on to do the Penguin, and I really, really wish I would have got to see that. But then again, that would have been this crazy thing. He gets cast in this film, and I mean, if that is the only change to history as life is, that would have been another actor who played in a Batman movie that died.
Right.
So it was almost like they unintentionally dodged this really weird mantra bullet. Ooh, this next question's tough. And then I think you actually have, another question that I don't know, which I'm excited to get into. But this one, which series is more overrated, Halo or Half-Life?
Man.
Yeah, Eric asked a really good question.
Um,
I thought about this all day at work. I'm like, well, there are arguments for both sides.
yeah. My gut is telling me Halo because maybe to the point where like they released so many Halo games and there's been so few Half-Life games. I think the hype for Half-Life is good games are bad. It's been so long and people are craving Half-Life 3 that's driving up the hype of the originals. And that for Halo, it's like what could have been, or what was good is in my opinion kind of been watered down a little bit as Bungie stepped away from it. And so I'd have to say, and obviously Microsoft is writing Halo because that's their bread and butter, and they're going to do that. I kind of feel like that's a little bit more overrated now. Uh, and to add to the Half-Life thing, I've only ever played two, by the way. I haven't played the first one, but
You're doing better than I have not played either.
um, I never beat the second one all the way through, but I have seen the ending.
Nice.
Uh, for that, I'm starting to get scared for that series and for fans of that series because you're waiting so long to put out three. If you're going to put out three, that by the time it comes out, it's going to be so overhyped that it's not going to make anybody happy.
No matter what they do.
Exactly.
All right. It's funny because this is, exactly what I was going to say about this question is exactly what you answered. Halo has oversaturated the market so much that it is overrated because there are so many of them. No matter what you do, people are like, oh my God, it's a Halo. Yeah, but you've taken away all the mystical brilliance of the series,
There were good Halo games.
There were great Halo
know,
games.
and then when you get to a point where it's like, even like people who, you release so many of them and it starts diluting a little bit, you're like, oh, another Halo game.
Well, I mean, Halo Reach, and anybody who knows me well enough knows that Halo used to be my bread and butter series. I was obsessed with it. Halo Reach was actually the last game I bought at launch. Didn't even worry about buying Halo 4 until it was cheaper, and I was just like, whatever, I guess I'll buy it. I don't really want to. And then I got to a point, and I'm like, this is just boring and repetitive, and I shut it off. I was over it, and actually that same week, that was a different game, and I forgot what game it is, and I accidentally tried to tie that in. So ignore what I was saying. Let's move on
I
to this question you
okay.
have for us.
All right. So I got a buddy, and he asked me a question.
Oh, what's your buddy's name?
His name is Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, Mike. And he asked me my top 10 games, and I don't think I have enough time left on the podcast to do top 10 because I would be just too damn indecisive. But so I narrowed it down to 5, and I just wrote down off the top of my head the 5 games that I think are like the best, and I've sort of had to try and put them in order. That is so hard to do.
If anybody wants to see his extended list of actual top 10, you could probably put that up on like your Instagram with pictures too, huh?
Yeah, I probably could. And probably some of these, I did the 30-day gamer challenge a while back, and some of these are probably in there somewhere.
Oh, sweet.
As far as what my favorite game is, I think that's going to be the same. But for number 5, we're going to go with Zelda Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. Uh,
Classy.
I think that game is tied, or it's close to the game that I've beaten the most, played through the most. I've played through it in so many different ways. I did it on the system, on emulator. I did it on my cell phone through an emulator.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I love that game to death. And I just played through Link Between Worlds, which is like a pseudo sequel to it. It is a sequel, but it's also like a tribute to the original as
It was
well.
so well done, though.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Sarah beat that without dying once.
I actually ended up dying twice, I think. One time was my own fault.
Only one. The other one was
The other one,
BS.
one of them was my own fault. That was a BS call, and then the other one was I think it was in a boss fight, but ended up not figuring that out until way later, and I was an idiot. Moving on, number 4, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. I absolutely love the Metal Gear Solid series. Even though I think we mentioned on the previous podcast, I kind of think it gets kind of over convoluted at times, kind of difficult to follow, especially if you're trying to get into the series. It's a lot to manage, but I feel like 3 captures everything about what is good about Metal Gear Solid. The gameplay, the writing, the twists and turns, they all make sense within this game, and they. Unlike the other games that make you think, well, what does this mean for the other game, or this mean for that one? How does this tie in? This doesn't worry about any of that.
Well, that
And
and to interject here, one thing I loved about Snake Eater, aside from the hardest boss battle ever in the ladder, in general, I thought the boss battles were fantastically done.
I kind of feel like they're a little bit more like original.
Yeah, they are. I mean, every boss had his own different style. The boss battles weren't all the same. I mean, look at the difference between the fear, the sorrow, and the end.
The end, yes, that's that is probably my favorite boss battle throughout the series, other than the sheer awesomeness of Metal Gear versus Metal Gear in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Rex versus Ray.
I loved that, even though maybe it's not the most uh, best boss battle, but it's almost like you're sitting here and all of a sudden you're just thinking, I'm controlling a Metal Gear, fighting another Metal Gear. This is what I've always wanted.
Excellent.
Going back to the list, number 3, Mass Effect 2. And I put number 2 on here because I feel number 2 is the Dark Knight of the Mass Effect series.
Well said.
And what this game does, it doesn't worry too much about like your character's origins. It introduces you to a whole bunch of characters. Shepard is just there, and he's recruiting these guys. And the story isn't that great, to be honest with you. It's pretty much a kind of a side story leading up to the bigger story. But the characterization there has so much room to grow in, and you feel like your crewmates, even like the crew, like the members of your team that you don't use that often, they get so much characterization that you feel like that you know these guys, and everything. They got the gameplay down. What was missing in Mass Effect 1 is here. You get your core gameplay. It plays fantastic. It has everything. The presentation. It is a work of art in my opinion, and that's why this is here over the other two games.
Awesome.
Uh, Moving on, number 2, Chrono Trigger.
Classic.
And I was a late bloomer to Chrono Trigger. Uh, I didn't get it on the original Super Nintendo. I want it badly. In fact, I played it first on the PS1, but I didn't get too far into it. And then I bought it on DS. And I just want to take a personal note and think that nearly all or a majority of RPGs should be played portably. I love it. I love being able to go, oh, I need to go do this for a minute and be able to put it on standby, put it down, and then come back to it. I love that aspect. And for Chrono Trigger, for this game to get moved so high up my list after only playing it like maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, it was an amazing ride. I absolutely love this game from beginning to end. It does time travel perfectly within its story. Its story is simple and yet kind of complex at the same time. You can just sit back and enjoy it, and it's not too long either. I think I beat it within 15 hours, I think. And so it's not like a really big time sucker like a Skyrim or something like that. So I absolutely loved the style of it, and I loved Mr. Nobuo Uematsu. He's my favorite video game composer. He
Sarah
has.
has Chrono Trigger signed by Uematsu.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Well, that was before I knew her. She has let's see, Final Fantasy 3 signed by who's the Final Fantasy composer?
Nobuo Uematsu.
It is Nobuo. Yeah.
He did Final Fantasy 1 through 10, and then 10 he only did a few because he was so burnt out
And
by the
then
time he
she
got to there.
has the Koji Kondo on the original NES Zelda 2
Oh,
gold cartridge. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Pretty dope.
Um,
But continue on your list. Sorry, that was a tirade.
all right. My number 1 was the very first RPG build up. Very first RPG that I ever played to completion and got into was Final Fantasy 7.
I knew it.
And I will say that I do believe this game is a little overhyped. I'm not beyond saying that. I understand that. And I understand why people kind of claim that 6 may be better, maybe 9's better, maybe 10's better, whatever whatever one, maybe
8.
4, 8 maybe, I don't know. 8 gets a lot of hate.
I hate
Uh,
that too because 8, in my opinion, is. I watched you beat 8 like 5 times. So,
but 7 for me, it's like it's the first. It's like you always remember your first, and that's why it's good to me because it's nostalgic in a way. And I absolutely love the characters. I love the story. The story gets even more crazy when you start getting into what they don't tell you in the main game because of poor translation. When you look more into it, it becomes a much better game, and hence why they should remake that shit. And I love the battle system. I love the materia system to death. I think it's one of the best they've ever did. Uh, I love the soundtrack. I can listen to this soundtrack all day and night. Thank you, Mr. Nobuo, again. And that is my number 1. I'm sorry if that pisses people off, but I don't give a shit.
I think that's a great number 1. With Final Fantasy 7, you said they should remake it, and it's funny because when I was working at GameStop, I always said if Sony wants to decisively win the console war between PS3 and Xbox 360, all they have to do is remake that game. It would hands down break every single sales record that exists
You know it.
without
I mean,
question.
if they can get Square to release that game, any company get that game exclusive, the hype alone. One, I don't think that it could even live up to the hype. I'll be honest. I want it. I want that game more than anything else, and I think the danger of that thing not succeeding is what is keeping them from doing it. But if they were able to get that, it would break all kinds of sales records. It would put that company immediately based on because people would buy the console just for that game.
It's true. And what if they? I mean, just me riffing here a little bit. What if they did like a custom bundle with a
Mm-hmm.
system and the game? I'm there.
Exactly. Oh yeah,
I'm there twice. I might buy 2.
that gets you in the door. I mean, I'm taking days off for work for that, and I've only done that for one other game ever.
Was that Mass Effect 3?
Yeah, it was. I took 3 days off.
Oh, I'm a good guesser.
Actually, okay, the one day was seeing a concert for the first day, and then the other two, I pretty much played Mass Effect 3. First was a 14-hour session, and then 12 the next day.
Sick. Absolutely. Wow, that's
And
26
so,
hours in 2 days.
and then the next day I put 7 into it and was done with it. Um,
Wow.
Also, I don't hate Mass Effect 3. Um, I feel like the ending could have been done a little bit better, but same thing about the Batman thing. I kind of feel like no matter what you do, you're going to piss people off.
Yeah, that
And so just I look at this. They went back and they added to the ending to make people happy, and they did not have to do that. They could have said, "Hey, this is our game. This is our ending. Deal with it."
yeah, but
And
they were
people
trying to
were,
be pleasing their fans. BioWare aren't they aren't Microsoft. They actually want to make their fans happy.
well, see, I kind of feel like Capcom wouldn't have done it for Resident Evil because I hated Resident Evil 6. They wouldn't. That's their vision. I don't see Capcom doing that. I don't see Square listening to their fans like that, and that's why I like BioWare. I'm willing to give them, okay, it wasn't the best ending, but I loved the journey from Mass Effect 1 to 3. 3 had awesome stuff in it, and then that their added ending fixed a lot of problems I had with it, so I'm cool with it. That's probably my most played game series. I probably put more time into that. That's probably getting up there with Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 6. But that's my top 5. I'll go back down the list one more time. Number 5, Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 4, Metal Gear Solid 3. Number 3, Mass Effect 2. Number 2, Chrono Trigger, and number 1, Final Fantasy 7.
Excellent list. Not a. I can honestly say with all confidence, there's not a terrible game on that list. Not
Mm-mm,
a one, and
not a one.
that's hard to do because there are a lot of bad games that people give good reviews to. Call of Duty. uh,
I,
I have
uh,
one more question for you before we play this game, and I know we're definitely running over my time, but guess what?
mm-mm.
This is my podcast. If we want to go another hour, we can. I don't care. But I know we don't because we're probably both ready to relax a little bit. But I do have this question. What are your thoughts on the end to Dexter?
Did you
Great
hear that
answer.
sigh? All right. Okay, so you said we have time, right?
Yeah, we got
All
we
right,
got as much
because
time as we need to have.
I have not talked about this with that many people,
Well,
and
here is your forum to vent, sir, and I'll probably vent right along with you.
all right. Here's my opinion on Dexter. Seasons 1 through 4, then that's the end of the series. Um,
Come on,
I
6 was pretty good. The Travis Marshall series was pretty good. 5 sucked. Lumen,
I
that story was awful.
I did not like season 5. I actually did not like season 6 all that much, except for when they brought back Biney. I loved that, and it didn't even really do anything for the overall plot. I
No.
just wish they would have brought him back sooner after he died and have him be like a little bit of a tug and pull between him and Harry over, which way Dexter's going to go. I loved the chemistry between those two actors, and I actually love season 7. I thought season 7 was really good. It was very tense, and that's the only season after 4 that I would even suggest that you watch. But unfortunately, you got to watch the other two to get kind of caught up in there. And season 8 was promising, and it failed miserably.
I think the first 3 quarters of season 8 were really good. They had a lot of things going. I will mention
Hmm.
one thing that really in the series overall, one character who I think they fleshed out, they had ideas for, and then they just stopped it because of whatever reason. But Lewis,
Yeah,
the intern for Vince,
yeah.
it was just he sends the hand to Dexter, so he knows something, but then it never goes anywhere. It
It,
never
it's
gets to that point.
they cut it off and they didn't really develop it right. It was almost like an afterthought kind of thing, like a side story, and I didn't like that either. I kind of felt like I really liked the Hannah McKay storyline from season 7 and then going into season 8 because I liked having, and let me just say, Dexter has a thing for blondes, does he not?
Every single one of them.
And I actually like the actress that plays Hannah, Yvonne Strava, and
That
I
was really good
butch-
Russian.
butchered the name. She's actually Polish. She played in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet. I didn't know that.
she plays Miranda,
Oh,
and,
cool.
and they make her like a brunette or dark hair, but it kind of looks odd. But she has a great ass. Um, it covers for it. I like her in Dexter because I liked Lumen sort of started off like that, but she couldn't really hang in there because number one, her character wasn't built for it, and number two, they didn't want to pay the actress that much to stick around. Um,
Well, you get a
but
big name like Julia Stiles, you're putting yourself in a stupid position.
well, okay, I liked having Dexter have that person that understands him and is okay with it, and it's
The scene on the was it the merry-go-round?
yeah or something like that. It's
Or
somewhere in the Winterland
yeah, you
Circus.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I dug that because he needed somebody besides Deb that he could talk to, and she was sort of on the same level as Dexter, but maybe not as quite driven. Maybe, but okay. Overall, the question was about the end, and I when I started watching this series, I did not envision the anti-hero serial killer ending up as a lumberjack. I just don't see that. Um, I'm sorry, he's not Paul Bunyan.
And there were so many plot holes. I mean, Deb's
Oh,
body goes missing and no one asks any questions. Harrison goes missing, no one asks any questions.
yeah.
Hannah
Oh yeah, what happened to
McKay
that kid?
escapes, no one asks any questions.
It, I, I know that Showtime got involved with it and didn't want to kill Dexter off. I think he should have died, and I think he should have died heroically. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's wrong because I've seen interviews where Michael C. Hall wishes that Deb would have shot him because he's not doing a good thing.
Like season
He,
2, and that when he's wondering what's going to happen and she shoots him in the head.
yeah, comically, I kind of feel like he should have died tragically and heroically. Where then that the Dexter Morgan guy to all the other characters who don't know his secret will go down as a hero, and then he's sort of the hero that we're cheering for as he's taking down all these baddies throughout the series. Maybe that's not the best way, but I kind of feel like the series lost its way. And I will say I watched this season finale or series finale the same night that I watched Breaking Bad series finale.
Oh, well, there's no comparison.
Oh my god! And I watched Dexter first, and I'm just like, and I'm here with friends. I'm here with my wife and our two friends, and I didn't say this to anybody else because I didn't want to ruin it for anybody who liked it, which I'm not sure if any of us did, but I was praying to myself, don't let Breaking Bad's finale be this bad. I
No, and
was
Breaking
scared.
Bad's finale delivered on all
Uh,
fronts. We
yes,
definitely will spend another podcast going back on Breaking Bad because there's so much of that to talk about and so many
yes,
different things. I think another thing that bothered me with Dexter was, you know, the whole thing. Like, you killed Deb, and then Dexter murders a guy in a police station, and they didn't do anything.
yeah.
Nothing. Every single one of those cops doesn't have a moral compass. I call BS. I
It's,
call absolute BS.
even Quinn would have been like, hold on now,
Yeah,
hold on.
absolutely.
That's
And I will
I feel
say
the
in the
same.
rumor mill, and I won't tell you where this source comes from on air because it might stir the pot with people that listen to this show. But I do have information that someone told me, and I don't know the levity or truth behind this, but this person's alleged uncle worked as a producer on Dexter and did tell this person, allegedly, that they are going to be making a Dexter movie.
If they can, okay, now if I to continue on with Dexter just for a second, uh, someone asked me how I would do another one because there was that rumor they were going to do like a spin-off series starring Dexter, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, but how would you do another series based on how that ended? And I said make it a couple years later and make him have to go either stop or try and talk some sense into his son because his son is doing what he did all along.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I mean that. maybe that's fan service for me, but that's just what I would like to
You
see.
could have called the show Meet the Morgans, and it could have had some comedic to it, but really dark. Yeah,
And
I mean, I'm signed up.
you could even involve Hannah in that as well, because obviously she's the one who's going to be raising um, Harrison going forward.
Well, that, and then you could, so like, like I said, they don't tie up the plot point of where did Harrison go, where did Hannah go. They assume that Dex is dead, but where did Deb's body go? So my thing would be with kind of riffing off of what you just said is what if like Harrison, they pronounce Harrison is dead. They give up he's a missing persons. Then Dexter and Hannah decide that they want to come out as they are alive and okay. Hannah's statute of limitations is gone for her crimes. The 7 years or whatever has passed. And then Aster and Cody have to get drug into it because of they thought their sibling had died.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this weird, like, you were alive this whole time and you didn't reach out to us, you didn't call us, you never made an attempt. Who are you? Your father? And it also makes it to where Harrison doesn't necessarily want to be Dex, but he has those urges.
See, whatever they decide to do, they have a lot of cleaning up to do.
More than Bryan Singer did with Days of Future Past to tie that in
Yes,
nicely.
yes. All right. To move forward, I have one more question before we move on to the game.
Cool.
A buddy of mine from work told me he was going to be silly and put a question, and he pretty much says, "This is for Brandon the gamer. My wife and I have a black lab. She's thinking about shaving her hair off. The dog's hair, not my wife. But anyway, what do you think about this? Uh, I feel like that maybe if you're having some issues with the dog, maybe it's getting hot out, but that's their fur. It keeps them warm. So I would advise against it. But that he asked another question: which PlayStation is the best to play? Now I assume he's talking about which PlayStation 1, 2, 3, or 4 is the best system, and 4 hasn't proved itself yet. It's out, it's selling, it's good, but it's too early. 3 played second fiddle to the 360, even though it caught up. It never was able to get the core 360 audiences to cross over, but it did well for itself. Has a great catalog. In my opinion, the PS2 is the best PlayStation.
I agree with you on this.
It has the best. It has hundreds of games. It was in production for over 10 years. It sold. It is the highest selling console to date. I don't know how many there are. I know it's over 100 million because I know the Wii is like behind it by a fair amount though. But I also love the PS1. I love all of the RPGs that are on the PS1. I love all the platformers on the PS1. It did a lot. But my answer is PS2. Basically, almost just for the sake of catalog, because you buy that system now, used, and you go to any used game store besides GameStop because they don't sell anything older than a generation. But if you go to like a game exchange or anything like that you have in your area, you're gonna find a plethora of strong titles on the PS2 to play, and you'll be set for years.
Absolutely. I will say that my gem collection from my PS2, there are 2 games that I consider my rarest of the rare that I picked up. I do have a mint condition copy of Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Ooh.
Yep, that's just that was a luck of the draw, man. That working at GameStop, one came in the door, guy hadn't even opened it, sold. I didn't even let them get a chance at it. I risked my job for that because I was like, I'll never see this again. And then there's a game that Sarah had told me about, and then when we found it, I did a little research, but it's called Guitarumon.
Never heard of it.
It is a
Surprisingly.
rhythm-based RPG-esque game, but it's
Ooh.
not rhythm-based as in like Guitar Hero. This predated Guitar Hero, actually. But it's the 4 different buttons you have and your analog stick. And you have to press the buttons accordingly to what the rhythm is while moving the analog stick in line with what the rhythm does. And it can
It
get really stupid hard.
it looks neat. I just looked it up because I've actually never heard of it.
There you go. That's something for
That
you
is
to
neat,
search. Yeah.
and it's pretty expensive.
Is
Brand
it
new.
really?
It's $80. It's not terrible.
Well,
for brand new. I wonder what it is used though.
you probably pick it up used for like $20 somewhere, and I know that's expensive for an old game, but it is a rarer title for the PS2.
Yeah, that's neat.
All right, so I'm excited. This Factor
All right.
Fiction or Factor Crap, whatever we're calling it.
Factor bullcrap. Now, over the last 2 episodes, we've talked a lot about gaming because we're both gamers, and I'm a retro gaming collector, and wrestling. We're both avid wrestling fans, and also some comics and some films in there. So I came up with 8 facts. Some are true, some are false, and it's up to you, Nate, and anyone who listens to this to play along. Keep score, and we're going to start with the first one. It's a wrestling question.
Alrighty,
Get your pens and paper ready.
I'm ready.
All right, Rey Mysterio has the shortest WWE title reign. Fact or bullcrap?
Bull crap. I do believe Chavo has the shortest title reign.
Well, you are false.
Oh, what?
On the Chavo, you are correct. On Mysterio, he
Oh,
does not.
okay.
Okay, maybe I didn't make it clear. WWE title reign, as in the WWE Championship.
Oh, yeah.
Chavo never held that.
Yep, Chavo
He,
only
he,
held the ECW
yeah,
title was as far as he got.
cruiserweight, but yes, the shortest title reign, WWE title reign, is Andre the Giant,
Really?
and he held it for 48 seconds.
Is that $1 Million Man?
Yes, he Andre pinned Hogan after Hogan's shoulder was up due to the bogus referee Earl Hebner, aka a referee who was hired by Ted DiBiase to get surgery to look like Dave Hebner.
Because they're
and
twin
then
brothers.
and then Andre immediately tried to sell it to the $1 Million Man. Therefore, it was null and void. And Mr. Jack Tunney, the president, said, "You're stripped," putting the title up. So you have won, audience. I don't know what you have. I can't see through the podcast.
It's always a problem with me. I'm trying to look at him, and I'm focusing on a wall right now, you know?
I just envision them. Hopefully they got it right. Now another wrestling question. I think this is the only other one on here. You might get this. Randy Orton once used CM Punk's "The Fire Burns" entrance before it was given to Punk because it fit Punk's character better.
Well, that was written by Killswitch for CM Punk, so I'm saying crap.
It is fact. Randy Orton did use the theme song on an episode of SmackDown in April 2006, I do believe, before Punk was brought up to the main roster for ECW.
Wow.
You can find it on YouTube.
That's awesome.
In fact, if you listen to the lyrics or look at the lyrics, maybe just the "Fire Burns," it is a sort of take on Orton's theme at the time, "Burning My Light."
By Mercy Drive.
Mercy Drive, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a cool little fact. So you are 1 for 1 now, aren't you?
Yep, one for two.
All right. Next question. Dr. Doom was inspired by Darth Vader.
Well, unluckily for you, I know that's false. Because he made his first appearance in Fantastic Four #5, which was out in 1963, which predated Star Wars by 17 years?
Ding, ding, ding. It is bullcrap. It was actually the other way around. When Dr. Doom was an inspiration for the creation of the outfit of Darth Vader or something along those lines.
Can I just say I really wish that you were here and that we had a shock collar, and if I got a question wrong, you had to zap me. That's a little stolen from the Jason Ellis show, but still, this would be a really fun segment to
Well,
add to.
let's just say I wrote that question directly for you, and if you would have got that wrong, I would have zapped you.
Okay, fair enough.
This next one is also a Marvel Comics question, and is that there is a Marvel character called Asbestos Lady who robbed banks with her accomplices who, like her, all wore asbestos-lined clothing, and she later died of cancer.
Now, I call crap. I have to. I know I've done a lot of research on Marvel characters and looking at first appearances and stuff, and I have never stopped and saw an asbestos woman. Uh, and those are some pretty interesting ideas for a story. So I'm calling crap, yeah.
The answer is fact. There is really an asbestos.
What? No way. No, I've got to look that up.
When I was looking up weird stuff, I saw that and went, "There is no way he's gonna believe this."
I'm 50% now, 2 for 4. Man,
All right.
that was a hard question.
All right, let's go back to some gaming. Um, Final Fantasy VII, my number one, was originally designed for the Nintendo 64, but Square canceled it and moved it to the PS1 because of the lack of space. In fact, if you were to take the finished product and put it on the Nintendo 64, it would have taken up 13 cartridges.
Well, here's the weird thing. I would say this is fact, except for I don't think it would have equaled 13 cartridges. So I'm kind of torn here because I believe that that's true. It makes sense. The graphics looked, I mean, they were 64-bit. I mean, you can tell that now in 1997 that those were, I mean, that was the graphics we had. The game is extraordinarily long. Yeah, I'm going to say fact. Let's go with fact.
You are absolutely correct.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is the only parts I was able to find of this. If I had to try and explain this, it's probably because the N64, while using cartridges, had a lot of compression. And so while I do believe there's probably some compression in the Final Fantasy VII discs, there probably is some, but they wouldn't be able to compress it that low. So I'm not even sure if the 13 cartridges thing is absolutely fact, but it was in fact originally designed for N64 because the N64 was originally supposed to be a disc-based console.
That is fact.
But when they changed it and said, okay, no, never mind, we can't get this to work the way we want it, we're going back to cartridges, Square, who had made the Final Fantasy series for Nintendo for that long, went to Sony. So, there's another one for your belt. Now the next one is another gaming question, and it goes, the first game to feature multiple endings depending on how you played the game was Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo.
Man, this is hard. Looking at the era, thinking about other games. Fact. That's all I can come up with. It sounds right.
Now, Chrono Trigger does have 13 different endings depending on how you play the game, but it was not the first. So that's bullcrap.
Oh.
The first was Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest on the original Nintendo.
I knew that. Mother puss bucket. I knew that too. Man, that's a good question. I like it.
The next one you should get because I know your gaming history. And this is also the last gaming question, and there's one more suited more towards the comic sort of thing. But the last gaming question is, or statement, not really a question. The Xbox was originally named the Direct Xbox, as it was initially designed to show how Microsoft's DirectX graphics technology could benefit the console market.
Bullcrap.
Fact.
Fact? What?
The DirectX was sequential in how Microsoft developed the Xbox. And so as a code name, I'm not sure if it really was a code name, but internally it was called the Direct Xbox and later shortened to just Xbox due to how that was more, commercially appealing probably.
Yeah. You got one of them Direct Xboxes?
Yeah.
No one's buying that.
It sounds like a satellite box that you put in your living room.
Actually, yeah, it does.
All right, so last one. Here we go. There was another Batman film being conceptualized during the making of Batman and Robin. The film would star the trio of George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, and Alicia Silverstone taking on the villainous Scarecrow, played by Nicolas Cage, and Harley Quinn, played by Madonna.
I feel like your laughing is giving this away, but it also could be swerving me. The weird thing is, I'm pretty sure I have heard that they were planning another Batman and Robin movie with Clooney, and then it never came to light. So I feel like part of this is definitely true, but the Madonna being Harley Quinn, Nick Cage being the Scarecrow, man, I'm gonna go with. You know what? Just to throw caution in the wind, I'll say this is a fact.
Is that your final answer?
Sure.
You are correct.
Yes.
The film was codenamed Batman Triumphant, and Nicolas Cage was one person of a couple of different people in plan for Scarecrow. They had also considered Steve Buscemi and Jeff Goldblum, and Madonna being Harley Quinn. In this film, Harley Quinn is the Joker's daughter, looking to get revenge from the first film. And the rumor also is that Jack Nicholson would reappear as the Joker in a Scarecrow nightmare sequence.
That's why I remember this. See, the Madonna and the Nick Cage part, I wasn't really vibing with, but I do remember looking up, because if you look up online, because the internet's a lovely place, they actually have a logo for Batman Triumphant.
Yes, they do.
And I remember seeing that, and I also remember hearing about the Nick Cage Scarecrow thing, but I just no recollection of Madonna or.
I don't know if she was actually confirmed or if she was just what they wanted or if they even talked to her. But that was the fact that I discovered. And after Batman and Robin was so poorly received, they canned it, and Clooney said he would never play another Batman movie.
But George Clooney will later go on to be Daredevil.
Wait.
That's a joke because, Ben Affleck bombed as Daredevil.
Okay.
And then he's now Batman, so why not have Batman play Daredevil?
I will say, are you trying to trick me with the fact or bull crap? What's this?
Oh, no, next time you're on, which, again, I said this unofficially. If you want the official co-host spot, man, I'd love to have you.
Oh, dude, this is so much fun.
It really is, isn't it?
It's like, it's kind of weird because I'm kind of playing the role of a guest and sort of a co-host thing when I'm talking about my own stuff. So
yeah, it's absolutely excellent, man. And I love this game.
Blast.
That was really fun to play. I would love to do some research and then challenge you next time. Just if we were keeping score here, out of the 8 questions you asked, I got 4 right, so I went 50%.
I was actually going to do 10, but I kind of ran out of time the other night when I was writing them down. So I just kind of like, well, 8's, I guess, decent enough. It's even. So there's fact or bull crap, and I hope you all fared better than Nate.
Yeah, because I sucked.
I expect you to get the Xbox question because that's relatively. I thought that was more of a common knowledge because I knew that before I even read it. So.
Okay, I will pose one question to you.
Uh-huh.
What was the code name for the GameCube?
That would be the Nintendo Dolphin.
Damn it, you knew it right away.
Bam, bam.
Alrighty. Well, at least we know you're definitely on with your gaming knowledge.
You have to challenge me next time.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig up some stuff. So everybody, I would personally like to thank Mr. Brandon. This was a stellar 2-hour and 35-minute episode. Or, well, 1 hour and 35-minute episode, but if you get the first day on there, then it's 2 hours and 35 minutes. So that's pretty cool. Brandon, again, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute blast. I've had the time of my life doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, you want to come on and co-host this thing, we can do this every couple weeks.
Awesome.
Make sure to check out Brandon on his Twitter, which again was do you have Twitter?
I don't have Twitter. I used to, and I don't really use it.
Okay, so check him out on Instagram.
Instagram.
At Brandom Games.
Brandom. when I chose the name Brandom for the Extra Life thing, which also go to Facebook and check out Extra Life Games, it's kind of spelled kind of funky. So if I could just get that to you really quick as I go to look it up because I can't remember how to spell it myself.
It's extra and then life with a Y, I do believe you said.
It's XTRALYFEGAMES, and I chose the name Brandon because when I became an admin, they asked me to pick a tag name, and I'm just like, I don't have a good one. And so I just thought, whenever people talk to me, they say I'm random as hell. I can talk about anything and everything. So Brandom became my name. And so on Instagram, I am Brandom, BRANDOM, GAMES, all one word. I'm building up my retro game collection, and I should really post other stuff. I don't do it right now. I hope to do it soon.
All right, and you guys know you can find me on the Twitter and the Instagram at Draxis_Rocker. That's DRAXSIS_ROCKER. And I don't really use Facebook so much anymore. I mean, once in a great while, but find me there at facebook.com/The Voice of Survival. I am your host, Nate Phillips. This has been Journey into Comics. Brandon Stone, co-host guest. Hope to hear from everybody soon. Be safe.
Take it easy. Thanks for having me.
No problem.